just went and saw 28 Years Later at the Bone Temple. Please bear with me. It's like 9 p.m., and this is usually the time that I go to bed because I'm a grandpa, so I'm a little bit tired. But I wanted to get this review like recorded before I went to bed because I knew that I would forget something if I didn't like record it immediately when I got home. I will state I was kind of skeptical when this movie was announced. Well, I mean, the way that the first 28 Years Later movie ends, it's obviously setting up some kind of sequel, and I was like, not sorry, you can probably hear the radiator in the background. It bangs. Anyways, I I knew it was setting up a sequel, but my thing about that is that the thing that I like about the 28 franchise is that they don't have to stem off of each other. Like, they can be their own separate things. So I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about a 28 movie that's like a complete like actual sequel to another one, and I was a little bit skeptical and I wasn't really sure how I felt about it. But this is probably my second 28 movie out of the four of them. Like, I really really liked it. I don't think anything can compare to 28 Days Later. I love 28 Days Later. I watched it last year, and that was the first time I ever saw it, and it, like, I go back and forth about zombie movies because, like, I never really know how to feel. I will say I haven't seen a whole lot of zombie movies. Like, I've seen a lot of Resident Evil movies, and I think I like those for a different reason, but those are, like, action movies. Like, they're not scary to me, they're actiony, and that's how I feel about a lot of zombie movies, is they're all action based. And I think with the 28 franchise, well, at least with some of them, not 28 weeks later, but with the 28 franchise, it's about the fear of the zombies. The zombies are supposed to be scary. There's just hordes of them running after you, but the whole point is that those terrifying hordes are not the most terrifying thing. That's what I really liked about the first one, is that the humans, no matter how scary the zombies were always scarier. And that was like my issue with 28 weeks and the other 28 years, is that like we sort of took that away. Like, the opening to 28 weeks later is probably one of the greatest cold openings I have ever seen in my entire life, but the rest of that movie just sucks. I really don't like it. And 28 years later, like, there's no better way to describe it other than it's a cute movie. It's a cute movie about, like, not the horrors of humans, but about like the bonding of humans and how they can adapt and evolve in this horrific society, and how they react to different things. And like, I like that the protagonist is a child, and that we can see everything through his view, but also how like he doesn't understand things. And that's what I did like about the first 28 Years Later movie. But it wasn't scary, it was cute to me. There was nothing horrifying about it. It's like, yeah, we have these like giant evolved zombies, but like they're just big. Like, I don't know, maybe that's because I'm just so numb to like Resident Evil, that has, I wouldn't necessarily say like evolution type zombies, but there are like monsters that have evolved from the viruses, and so I get that. So I felt like a little bit more numb to Samson and the other like alpha zombies in the 28 Years Later movie. And like, I didn't feel anything from that, and I'm like, I want to go back to what I felt like 28 Days Later was, which was being like, here are these horrible terrifying zombies, and here are worse horrible terrifying humans. And I'm so glad that we went back to that in the Bone Time, especially because it took the cuteness of 28 Years Later and combined it with the horribleness of 28 Days Later. And I think it was like a nice culmination of that. And there are really cute moments in 28 Days Later as well. Like when they're going on the like little field trip to find the military base. It's cute, it's adorable, and I think that's like the cuteness of humanity. But in this case with 28 Years Later, it's the cuteness between a human and a zombie, and I loved it. Like, the cute friendship that Ian developed with Samson was so cute, because at first they're just trying to understand each other, and then Ian realizes that it's like he brings comfort to Samson, which is why Samson keeps coming back. And then he's like, maybe there's a way that I can, like, I just want to bring you peace. And so he tries to do it permanently, and then he says the word moon, And then it changes to being like, maybe I can cure him, maybe I can fix him. And then it's like a new thing of being like, can I actually save Samson? And I found it so cute that they sit with each other, and Samson never replies because he hasn't found the ability to talk yet again. But it sort of helps us in a way understand the zombies themselves, because they're not zombies. They're infected by a rage virus. It makes them angry in a way. The virus, like the cure that Ian, I feel like, eventually develops, is a way to sort of suppress the psychosis of the rage. And that's what I thought was really interesting, that this guy who's a doctor, who's just like, I mean, in a way he is obsessed with the dead, but in a way he loves the dead. And the fact that, he develops this beautiful friendship with a zombie who's probably brought hundreds of those skulls, and the way that they just get to sit, and it gives someone that Ian can talk to. I mean, like, you spend 28 years by yourself burning bodies and creating these bone temples. Like, the amount that could affect your own psychosis is insane. And in a way, like, I'm kind of glad that Ian got to be able to speak to someone even though they couldn't respond, and just be able to express his emotions and his feelings, and be able to talk about it with someone, and then essentially be able to realize that he can fix the person that he's talking to, that he could possibly cure that person. And of course it's all a test. Like, Ian doesn't know what's going to happen, but he tries anyways, and it works. And that part alone, with Samson, like, being able to hear things and going back to the train, and us realizing that he was essentially probably on that train when the virus broke out, and then when he gets out of the sort of acid trip that he's on, and all the zombies are looking at him and start attacking. I in the theater is like, oh shit, because it was just so cool. But luckily he survives, and he comes back, and he takes Ian with him to commemorate his own death, and it's really beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. And the parallel of that cute, adorable story with the absolute horribleness that is that Jimmy cult is insane. Like, you can kind of get a sense from 28 years later, like the first one, that there's someone named Jimmy, and Jimmy has a cult, or like something fucked up is happening with Jimmy, because I think there's like a corpse suspended by their feet with, I think, like, Jimmy was here scratched onto like the side of a house or something like that. So you know that somebody named Jimmy is doing some fucked up shit in the first one, and then you meet him at the end with his little like weird acrobatic boy band, and you're like, what's happening here? And then it's like we get introduced to that, and like, Spike getting initiated into the cult where he has to like kill another member to be a part of it, and the only reason essentially why he survived is because he stabbed someone in an artery, and they were stupid enough to take the knife out, which I'm gonna be honest, I laughed a little bit at the scene. He like pulls it out and starts gushing blood, and I was like, oh yeah, this dude's gonna die. And he's like, what's happening to you? I was like, bitch, you pull a knife out of an artery, you're gonna die. Just horrible stuff that they end up doing, and like the skinning and everything like that of the group is insane. And then it's just like the fear of Spike, but he's like, I can't run away because I'm gonna die. And I was just, it was, I wouldn't say I loved it. I feel like that's not the right phrase, but I'm just like, I'm glad we went back to those roots of just like, this is what is truly horrible. Like, I would take the zombies any day over being skinned alive by Jimmy's cult. Any day. I would choose the bear, is what I'm saying. Like, I would rather get mauled by a pack of zombies than get skinned alive by Jimmy and his Jimmies any day. I loved that they had that parallel. It was an interesting parallel. Like, sometimes I think the back and forth was a little bit too much, but I liked it. I liked how slow this movie is, which is really interesting, because like, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like there's essentially a montage of the days going and going of Samson with Ian, but then when it comes to the Jimmies, we're essentially in that barn for a hot minute. And I think that's sort of where it comes from, where it's like we get to see Spike kill that one Jimmy, and then we're essentially at the barn, or like at the little, like, I don't know, village that they have there, and we're skinning villagers. Or like later on, when Samson's gone and Jimmy finds Ian, and they have this very slow conversation, which I absolutely loved, because I think you sort of watch it and you're like, does Jimmy know that he has a cult, or does he actually believe in certain things? Like, does he believe in Satan, or is he just like, maneuvering people around? And then you realize that it's like, no, he actually does believe in Satan. He thinks that Satan brought the virus down upon the UK, and that's why the zombies exist. And I think it was a really interesting conversation, like the atheist doctor and the kid who was the son of a priest who turned into a Satanist because he watched his priest father lead a pack of zombies towards him. And I think that was a really interesting, like, mesh between the two, and the conversation that they had because of that, where it's just like, it was so slow, and I absolutely loved it. And they have this wonderful, wonderful conversation, and at the end, Jimmy's just like, so I'm in a bind, and then he's like, you're not Satan, but I need you to be Satan, because if you aren't, I'm gonna murder you. And I thought it was really interesting. And then of course we get the beautiful, beautiful scene of Ralph Fiennes dancing to Iron Maiden with a bunch of fire in a bone temple, and I was laughing. So my sister was also laughing so hard. Both of us were laughing so hard at that. I thought it was great. I think part of it is that, well, I may not probably listen to the Iron Maiden song, but my dad's a massive Iron Maiden fan, so I saw the Iron Maiden, I was like, oh, this shit's gonna be fire. And so I loved that. I thought it was so funny and silly, and especially Jimmy's reaction to it, because at first he's like really confused, and then he starts to get really, really into it. He's like, fuck yeah, this dude's going hard, and I love it. And I really, really liked that. I also just like that Ian chose his morals over Jimmy's bullshit, and I did enjoy that, because he's like, you can continue the work, you can have more fingers, like create more fingers. And then he sees Spike and he's like, no, this needs to stop. And then he tries to get the fingers, or the other Jimmys, to kill Jimmy. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. And then unfortunately, like, he gets stabbed, but it's, he's old. I kind of figured that Ralph Fiennes' character was gonna die. I was like, Ian's probably gonna die at the end of this movie. But I'm just, the way that Jimmy gets crucified on the upside down cross, it was just such a great scene because of the way that he dies. Because I was honestly kind of hoping that, like, Samson would charge in and then just, like, murder the shit out of him. And I'm honestly kind of glad that instead Samson, as essentially like a cured Samson, comes in, takes Ian's body, and walks away, and Jimmy hallucinates Samson as Satan. And I absolutely loved that, where it's like Samson, at quote unquote as Satan, like, abandons his prodigal son or whatever. And I loved that so much. It was so glorious to watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. I was like, fuck yeah, get your comeuppance, dude. And then of course Spike, and I think her name was Kelly, is the Jimmy that he keeps hanging out with. I loved her, she was badass. But I think it was the two of them, and then they sort of run off together, which was my one gripe, which was, why didn't Spike just go home? Like, they have a conversation together, because he tries to leave, and she's like, where are you gonna go? And he's like, I don't know, anywhere but here. And she's like, nowhere but here is better, I've tried. And it's like, but we know he knows a place that's better. He knows how to get there, so I don't understand why he's not going home. Like, I get, like, I think in terms of things, this is supposed to be fairly recent with the events of 28 years later, so he might still be fucking pissed at his dad. But you've realized how horrible, like, I mean, yes, there are some good parts, like, Ian is a great person, but there are also some horrible parts. Just go home. Go home. I was just like, go home, Spike. Like, I know you want to be strong, but you're too fucking young for this. Just go home. And I wanted him to go home, but obviously he didn't, and I'm kind of grateful for it because then we get the wonderful cameo with Cillian Murphy, who has a kid. So I don't remember their names from 28 Days Later, but obviously like it's assumed that him and the other actress in 28 Days Later that is obviously their kid. But I got so excited when he showed up on screen. I was like, oh yes. So, but I liked that part. I just got so excited, and then it's like, he saved them. So I don't know if they're gonna gear up for another movie or if they're just gonna leave it there. At this point, I'd be like, I'll take another 28 years later movie. I'll take it. I'm okay with that. I was worried with this movie that it was gonna get. I feel like too mainstreamed isn't the right word, but I was worried that like it had gotten too big for its own good in a way, because the thing that I like about 28 Days Later is that it's gross. It's a grainy, gross movie. Like, I know, like, when I go on Letterboxd and I look at other people's reviews, like, and a lot of them are bullshit, silly comments, but a lot of the bullshit, silly comments for 28 Days Later were like, look at this shitty ass camera quality. I think that's what I liked about it, is that it looked grainy and gross. And so with 28 Years Later, the first one, I was like, I don't know how I feel about a cleaner 28 Years Later movie, and I don't remember much about the cinematography in that one, but I loved the cinematography in this one. It was a mixture of beautiful and chaotic at the same time. Like, there's a shot of Samson sort of like in his psychosis after taking the drugs, where it's like on his face and essentially moves with his body. I'm assuming they like targeted a gimbal on the actor, or like literally just like strapped a camera to him and just had him do this. But it was like done so well, and I really, really liked it. But there are great scenes with that. Like, I love all the shots of like the big temple. It was with all the skulls on it, because all of them looked so cool. They were like the most gorgeous shots ever. I was like, this was like a beautifully filmed movie. I really, really liked it. I also liked in a way that they, you don't see a lot of the horror on. I mean, you do. You see the aftermath of the horror, but you don't see the acts of the horror a lot. But it's also like generated in a way where some of it's really confusing. Like when, was it Jemima or whatever her name is, like gets hit in the head with the fucking crane or whatever hell it is. Like, you're not sure what's happening. You're like, something's wrong, but I don't know what it is. And then she falls down. You see it sticking out of her skull, and you're like, oh shit. And I loved shots like that, where it's a lot of like up close in people's faces, or like really big wides to show you the like vast emptiness of this UK apocalypse that they currently live in. And I really, really liked that. I was like, this is so fucking cool. And I absolutely loved that. I loved the music, both the pop songs that they chose, like, because like Ralph Fiennes has a record player in his little bunker, and when he first starts playing Girls on Film, I started laughing. I was like, that's so funny that he just, I mean, but it makes sense. Like, you gotta do something to keep yourself sane, and he's just like listening to music while he does his little work, and I really, really liked it. And it just kept going, and I enjoyed that. I loved the soundtrack. I thought the soundtrack was beautiful. Of course, it ends with In a House in a Heartbeat, which will have me screaming essentially every time that song shows up in any 28 movie, because it's just so good. Obviously, it is not the same tone in terms of soundtrack as the rest of the movie, but I really liked the soundtrack for this movie. I wasn't particularly a fan of the soundtrack for 28 Years Later, like the first one, and I think it's just because like the soundtrack was cute, which like it was a cute movie, but I needed something gritty and darker, and I'm glad that this movie was gritty and darker. I was like, I need to go back to the gritty, darker roots, and I'm glad that we got that with like the cleanliness of a high budget movie. And it's just, God, I really loved this movie. Like I said, nothing will ever beat the first one for me. Like, I absolutely love that movie. But it's just like, and I've only seen it once. I will say that now. I've only seen it once. I would like to see it again. But I loved it so much, and I really liked this one too. It was really good. It was really fun. like, I highly recommend it. I mean, obviously, if you're watching this, hopefully you've already seen it because I've just spoiled a shit ton of it for you. But I really, really liked it. I don't know what else to say. I think it's just, I went in with so much hesitation, and it kept going. My mom was telling me that she wrote a review of something that was like, it was the greatest zombie movie ever made. And I was like, I still don't agree with that. Like, nothing will beat 28 Days Later for me. And I think that's another thing. I wouldn't call it a zombie movie in a way that, like, there are hardly any fucking zombies in this movie. Like, the train scene is cool. The train scene is cool, and there's, like, a decent, like, there's a lot of scenes with, like, oh, I fucking forget her name. I think it's Kelly is her actual name. A lot of scenes of her, like, walking past a singular zombie, just slitting their throat and walking away. Like, that's fucking cool. But, like, we don't get the massive hordes of zombies. I felt like we got more massive hordes of zombies in the other 28 Years Later movie than this one. Like, it was about a zombie, and I think that is interesting, but it was about curing him, and in a way, I wish that we had more zombie chases in a way. But there honestly are not a whole lot of zombies in this movie, so I wouldn't even. It's a movie with zombies. It is not a zombie movie, is how I would describe it. So in terms of the review that my mom saw, and she hates horror movies, so she knows nothing about these movies. Like, I would call it a horror movie with zombies. It is not a zombie movie. That is how I would describe this. I'm like, the horror stems from Jimmy and his cult. The horror does not stem from these zombies because there were only like 10 of them. I mean, there were probably more than 10 of them, but it felt like there were only like 10 of them. But yeah, I do really like this movie. I did not think I would love it as much as I did, but it was so good. So, there's that. I I hope you liked this review. I hope that my tired ramblings were not too much for you, but I'm going to go to bed now. So, yeah, let me know if you've seen 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. If you enjoyed it, or if you didn't, let me know as well, like, what you didn't like about it. I really liked this movie. Bye-bye.